Get your ears wrapped around the Golden State Media Concepts Basketball Podcast. All the scoop you need to know, from college basketball to the NBA and even March Madness. News of your rising stars. Topics on and off the hardwood. This is the Golden State Media Concepts Basketball Podcast.
Welcome, wherever you're joining me from. I hope you guys are having the greatest day of them all. I'm in sunny California where I don't know if it's like summertime or if it's spring. It was 80-something degrees today. It was beautiful, not a cloud in the sky. It's starting to get hot out here, and looks like it's summertime, but it's really just springtime. It's a great time of the year for everyone. I hope you guys are having a great day wherever you're listening to me from. Exciting weekend though. Exciting weekend, exciting days. We've had some great college basketball games, women's and men's games. I'm going to touch a little bit on that. We're going to get into my power rankings. You know, every week we get into my power rankings. We've got some pretty interesting quotes that I saw this weekend. We're going to get into it all on this show. But first, let's get into the big news that happened this weekend. Andre Drummond decided to sign with the Los Angeles Lakers. And what does this mean for the Lakers going forward? What does this mean for the Brooklyn Nets, who also had a big signing in LaMarcus Aldridge? These guys are getting everybody. I want to touch a little bit about that. So let's get into that. So let's go into the Nets first. So the Nets are an interesting team, right? They obviously got LaMarcus. He didn't work out with the Spurs. They kind of both decided to kind of part ways and see where things go. And on paper, so to me, obviously you guys know I'm a little I'm not biased, but I just kind of tell you things how it is. So LaMarcus Aldridge, to me, I don't know. I don't know where he's at. He wasn't really playing the best basketball, and defensively, he's kind of an older guy, to be honest with you guys. So how much this helps him? And the Blake Griffin thing, to me, everyone was bashing Blake Griffin and LaMarcus Aldridge before this trade. Like, these guys are bums. These guys can't play anymore. And all of a sudden, these guys are first ballot Hall of Famers. I don't get the switch all of a sudden. So, am I being a little biased? I don't know. I think on you're getting a 35-year-old LaMarcus. Blake Griffin has kind of found his fountain of youth with dunking and all this stuff like that. He hasn't dunked many times this year, and all of a sudden he comes to the Nets and he's dunking all over the place. So in 21 games, LaMarcus averaged 13 points. 46% from the field. It's not bad. 36 from three. I don't know, but like I said, he's 35. His numbers have kind of, he was averaging 13 this year, averaged 18 last year, the year before that, 21, 23. So he's kind of on a decline. Will this help him? Of course. I think this will really help him. I think it really will. And there was a crazy stat today where Kyrie had like 16 points in 8 minutes on perfect shooting. You guys know I got into a little bit of my Kyrie bashing on my last show. But I don't know. It's kind of like I think on paper, if we look at the teams on paper, Brooklyn's a hell of a team. I mean, you see Blake Griffin, you see LaMarcus Aldridge, Kevin Durant, Kyrie, and then James Harden. I mean, that's a hell of a ball club. That's going to be a tough team and to be a tough out. But the biggest thing for both teams, I think, is health. Health. That's the biggest thing. And now, and then we go over to the Lakers side, right? Andre Drummond, who's obviously a rebounding machine, literally came into the league with Anthony Davis. He's a little bit younger, obviously. He's 27. He's only 27, which is crazy to think Andre Drummond's only 27. He was averaging 17 points with the Cavs. The guy could rebound still. He's still young. He can still run all over the place. 13. So he's averaging 13 and 17 for the Cavs. Those aren't bad numbers. And of course, you guys say, "Oh, Eddie, you're a Laker homer. You're a Laker homer. You think the Lakers got the better." But I do think you're getting a 27-year-old Andre Drummond, who's kind of made his money in the league, right? I'm not, like I said, I don't like to count people's pockets. He's made his money, and he wants to win. If you're at his press conference today, I'm only here to win. And the Lakers have had trouble, obviously, at the center position this year with Gasol. I think the biggest mistake Rob Pelinka has made in his general manager, I don't know, he's been here, for a couple of years now, is letting go of Dwight Howard. That's, I think, the biggest thing, because Dwight wanted to come back, and obviously, for whatever reason, he signed with the Philadelphia 76ers. But that's kind of the biggest thing. And I was looking at the numbers the other day. When Marc Gasol and LeBron James play together, they have one of the highest scoring percentages together. So not to say, I think Marc Gasol's going to end up coming off the bench, because he's obviously taking a step back defensively, and offensively kind of hasn't really hit a rhythm yet with the Lakers. And I think I think maybe off the bench might be a little bit better. Maybe running with that second unit with Caruso and Kuz. But I think Andre Drummond, to be honest with you, is the biggest. The biggest thing with Anthony Davis is he doesn't like playing the 5, right? Anthony Davis doesn't like banging with the big guys. He'd rather play the 4. He'd rather kind of do his thing. Doesn't like to really bang and kind of. I mean, he'll end up playing the 5, though. That's the thing with Anthony Davis. He ends up playing the 5, but he doesn't like to play it. He's been like that since he got in the league. But with the Lakers, also health. If they could be healthy, because they're gonna be. It looks like I said, Anthony Davis might be cleared to play. He got cleared for on-court stuff last week. At the end of last week, LeBron still is on a walking boot, still not really on that foot. How is he gonna be? The Lakers don't need it. I mean, obviously the Lakers would love to have him, but he's gonna be out for a couple more weeks. It's looking like. But Andre Drummond. And don't think that he's going to automatically come in and be like this game changer for the Lakers right now, because he's not. He's not. He's going to kind of go as the Lakers go. We kind of know that. He's not going to come in and be the guy. He's a guy that needs LeBron and Anthony Davis both out there, I think. I think he'll gobble up rebounds for this team right now, but his effectiveness kind of rolling to the basket, maybe clearing the lane for the big guys, and a lot of putback dunks. He's in the last 10 years, he leads the league in 20 rebounds, 20 points games. He's a monster on the glass. I think he's going to have a lot of putback easy dunks, to be honest with you, because you've got to realize how many double teams Anthony Davis and LeBron James, how many double teams they bring. And just think about how many wide open putback dunks, open dunks, offensive rebounds he's just going to have. I think he's really going to flourish with them. And he's pretty good defensively. He blocks a good amount of block shots. He averages a block and a half a game. So to be honest with you, I think this is the best pickup from this. I really do. But like I said, on paper, if we're looking at on paper, it's the Brooklyn Nets. I mean, think about it. You have Kevin Durant, who hasn't played this year, Kyrie, James Harden, who's arguably the MVP. I told you guys he's my MVP right now, and then Blake Griffin, obviously, who found. But you never know with Aldridge. It might have been he needed a change of scenario, he needed a change of scene, maybe a new system, a new maybe an opportunity to win. I don't know if he felt that with the San Antonio Spurs, if he felt the urgency to win. Not even the urgency, but just a chance of winning. Obviously, the chance of winning could change you a lot, kind of like Dwight Howard did last year, kind of accepting your roles. And I don't know how much they're going to play, to be honest with you. Because they have DeAndre there. They've got that young kid who's kind of found. I don't know. It's going to be it's really interesting to see how the Nets how this ends up going. I think I'm actually really excited for it. The NBA just got really good. It's always been good. The 76ers, I think they're still in first place. I know that for a fact they're still in first place. We're going to see how they kind of get going, right? I think that's interesting. We all wanted to see how they get going. So we'll see. But like I said, I think the ultimate winners this trade deadline were the Lakers, personally. I also like the Clippers a lot with what they did with Rondo. That was a great pickup, I thought, for them too. But we'll see how it ends up playing out. Obviously, the Nets are deep. The Lakers are deep as well. And kind of their calling card last year was defense with Dwight and McGee. They were so long last year when they had McGee, Howard, and then they had Davis, and then LeBron, and they were just a long basketball team. That front court was huge. So I guess we'll see how it ends up playing out. But like I said, it all comes down to being healthy. It's no ifs or buts. It's all health. So that's kind of where I'm at with that. We had an awesome. I'm filming on a Monday night after a game, and guys, there was an awesome game in women's college basketball. There was. It was one of the best games I've seen in a long time. And obviously, you hate for it to end like that. There was a controversial call between. It was a game between the Baylor Bears and the Uconn Huskies. It was oh my God, Gino Auriemma. He's probably the greatest of all time. One of the greatest of all time. It was a hell of a game. One of the players for Baylor came down and she kind of pulled up. It might have been a foul. It's tough. It's tough for them to call. I've been bashing college officiating all year. I really have. And she drove the basket and she kind of got hit on her arm and in her face. But at that point, I don't know if you call that. It's just a tough call to call. You don't want to call it there. There might have been like 0.9. I think there was 0.9 seconds after that. So, yeah, it was a tough one for Baylor to say the least. But they missed a lot of free throws. They missed a ton of free throws. And I always talk about free throws, and they missed some big free throws down the stretch, and that I thought they should have made. They missed 7 free throws. You can't win. They both missed 7 free throws. But you can't really do that. You can't. They shot 2 for 9 from 3, which is, I don't know, not very hot. But I want to talk about this UConn basketball team. This freshman gal, Paige Buchers, she is absolutely a baller. She's a freshman. She's won Big East. She's won every award. Freshman of the Year, Big East Player of the Year. Where does Gino find? How does he get all these? I feel like every year, with UConn women's basketball, they have a girl, a freshman that's just all everything. Every year. I remember that with Breonna Stewart. I feel like Breonna Stewart, and then she dominated all 4 years, and the rest is history with Breonna. I think she won 4 national championships with her. This girl's she's a guard. She's shifty. She's like a ball handler. She does it all. She's not afraid to shoot from 3. She gets down and dirty she bangs down there. Man, I really enjoyed watching that game today, and yeah, that was a great basketball game. Hell of a basketball game. Arizona won, so they're going to go ahead and UConn, Arizona. A little West Coast against some East Coast, 1 against 3. And Baylor, they're always going to be there. They've done a great job, but it fell a little short. I think they should have made it. If they made a couple more free throws, obviously they win. It's obviously I say that now, but so. it was a good game, though. You can't say it wasn't, and I'm excited to see how this ends up playing out for them. The men's side, I thought there was some great games. Baylor and Arkansas. Arkansas ran out of gas. My team, who I thought it was gonna pull it out, and like I told you guys that's who I was pulling for, and they had a good game. We had some other great games. Creighton, Gonzaga, guys. Gonzaga is 83-65. Beat Creighton handily. I told you guys, Gonzaga, best team in the country. Best team in the country. You can't tell me they're not. You really can't tell me they're not. They're just such a good ball. They're just so good. Inside, outside, they could score in so many ways. Hell of a, they're the best team. Oregon State beat, obviously, Loyola Chicago. Sister Jean, I hate to see her go, but Ethan Thompson, Southern California kid, Los Angeles, California. Bishop Montgomery High School. Baylor beat Villanova, and then Arkansas beat Oral Roberts in a tough game. That was a hell of a game. Syracuse Buddy Buckets didn't come out to show. Houston's is a suffocating. They remind me of kind of like who do I want to say? They suffocate you. They don't give you they don't let you breathe. They don't let you breathe. Defensively, they're so long. They're just so long. And they had a scare today against Oregon. They almost gave up that huge lead they had, but they are so suffocating on defense. And then obviously I'm going a little backwards. Sunday, like I said, Gonzaga beat Creighton. Michigan, who's obviously looks for real. They beat a good Florida State team, held them to 21 points in the first half. They were just good defensively. Wagner, that kid's good. He's a baller. UCLA beat Alabama. UCLA is one of those teams that we like to talk about that gets hot at the right time. And I want to talk a little bit about that game because you always see this stuff happening. And the question I always ask myself, UCLA had, so for those of you guys that didn't watch the game, UCLA had a 3-point lead and Alabama had the ball and they were up by 3. And a lot of teams don't know if they should foul or not foul. That's always a big thing. Do we foul, put them on the foul line, make the free throws, make it a 2-possession game, or do you let them go for it? And UCLA decided not to foul, and they got burnt. They came back and hit huge shots. They hit that big 3 at the end of regulation, no time left. And that's kind of where you're like, oh, you should have fouled him. But then if he misses it, you're like, all right, good call. It's always, sports is so funny in that way where you say, oh, you should have fouled him, but then you don't foul him and they hit the shot or vice versa. So, yeah, UCLA wins, though. Should have won a regulation, but they didn't. Oregon and then USC in the nightcap. USC just keeps rolling. The Mobley brothers are special. These kids are good. One of them is going to be a top 5, top 10 pick. Andy Enfield does a good job with them, and hell of a basketball team, and they've got it all going. They're getting the Pac-12, man. I'll tell you what, they've done a hell of a job. Obviously today, Oregon State couldn't get it done for Houston. They had a light surge, but Houston was just too big. They dominated the glass. Let's see how many offensive rebounds they had. I know they had a ton. Let me see. They had 19 offensive rebounds, Houston did. It almost felt like, and Oregon State only had 7. It almost felt like anytime they shot the ball, it almost felt like a pass inside. They're so long down low. They're like I said earlier, I was talking about the Lakers being long last year. That's what it kind of reminds you of. You almost seem like you don't have a shot. When they're just monsters on the glass, and yeah. Oregon State made a run at the end, put 17 points in the first half, kind of came back and bit them in the butt. Obviously, like I said, Houston will do that to you. My favorite part about Houston is their coach is in sweats on the sideline. I love that. He's kind of like in a jumpsuit. You got to love that. I'm a big fan of that. I'm a big comfort guy, so I'm all for comfort. I'm all for that. So go for it, coach. I like that. And then Arkansas and Baylor in the nightcap. Arkansas looks like they just ran out of gas. They didn't have their guy Moody struggled a little bit. He had 11 points. He kind of been carrying them all. He was 0 for 4 from 3, kind of been their guy. And he kind of had an off night, 2 for 10 from the floor. Just not a very good night for him. A night, you obviously don't want to go off like that. And then their spark off the bench had 14 points and he fouled out with about 8 or 9 minutes left in the game. He kind of got them going a little bit, and then he obviously fouled out. That was tough. That was a tough one, and it was a good play by the guy that took the charge. And it's one of those where you wish he kind of just jump stopped and kind of made the pass, but he kind of kept going and he bit. But Baylor deserves a lot of credit. They're well coached, and they had that COVID scare that stopped them. That kind of was like a break almost. It feels like them and Gonzaga kind of held their horses, kind of held their ground, and more power to them. That was good games. And I'll talk about the games coming up later tonight or later tomorrow. And in the Final Four, it's exciting times. We got USC, Gonzaga, and then UCLA, Michigan, West Coast, baby. I'll talk about that here a little bit later. Coming up, we've got some quotes that I want to read into. Am I reading too much into them? We'll find out here in a second. I've got my power rankings coming up, and I've got some more NBA and college basketball news coming right up after this break.
Are you looking for the very best NFL and college football podcast? Then check out the GSMC Football Podcast. Get the latest football news both on and off the field. From the NFL Draft to trades to the rumor mill to the NFL Combines, they got you covered. That's GSMCpodcast.com/football-podcast. Get updates on college rivalries, game day insights, and much, much more. It's football talk the way you want it. This show eats, sleeps, and breathes football. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
Welcome back to the show, ladies and gentlemen. We've just talked about a little bit about my Andre Drummond and Brooklyn Nets scenario, what that's going to look like. We had some March Madness to talk about, and I'll talk some more March Madness here coming up on the show. But first, I want to get into my power rankings, my MVP rankings, and a quote that I want to talk about a little bit. Today, the Rockets GM was interviewed, and Raphael Stone, and he said, they asked him, how do you feel about the trade, about the James Harden trade to the Nets? And he says, I feel good about it. He said, I do feel good about it. You do every deal at the moment you do the deal. I would for sure 100% do that deal again. You guys don't have the advantages of knowing everything I know. Literally no part of me that regrets doing that deal. I have not second-guessed it for a moment. What do I think about that? Are we reading too much into that? What do I think? First off, I think he regrets that because I think he could have had Ben Simmons. So that's first of all. Second of all, I don't know. I don't get why he traded Karis LeVert. That's second. Like, why would you do that? I don't get that. For Victor Oladipo? I don't know. They obviously got a lot of first round picks. But 4 first rounders, 2021, 23, 25, and 27. And then they traded away Oladipo for Avery Bradley and Kenny Olynyk for a 2022 pick swap. So, I don't know. Am I reading too deep into this? Maybe. Obviously, he's got to say it's a good trade. I mean, he's a general manager of a team who everybody's kind of talking about making the worst decisions possible. But I I don't know what the owner thinks about it, obviously, but yeah, I don't think it was their best trade. Let's just put it nicely and the best way possible. It wasn't the best trade for all. Obviously, the Brooklyn Nets. You do that for one of the best talents, arguably the MVP this year. You do that, but if you're the Houston Rockets, I still think, like I said, you could have had. You could have potentially had Ben Simmons. But let's go through the power rankings of this week. This week there were some great, some good basketball. The team to look out for, the Sacramento Kings. How about that? 4-0 this week. The Miami Heat 0-3. That's really surprising. Obviously, Victor Oladipo hasn't come in and helped them. He hasn't played for them yet, but he comes in and the Miami Heat are a weird team. They've lost 6 straight, I want to say, and they're a team that I thought was they're one of those teams that has to be absolutely perfect. And I talked about this on the show before. They have to be absolutely perfect. Like, if one of their guys isn't playing, like the thing about the Miami Heat last year is Duncan Robinson and Tyler Hero could have kind of snuck up on you last year. This year, they're at the top of scouting reports. They're not hiding behind anybody. So they have to come out and play hard every night. And they have to almost play perfect. Jimmy Butler, Bam Adebayo, I think they'll find a way to figure things out. But they had a tough week, to say the least. 0-3, and it goes into last week as well. Andrew Wiggins had a tough weekend. He was a minus 61 in 3 games last week. That's tough. Rudy Gobert was plus 81 in 4 games last week. That's a nice day for the Stifle Tower. Yeah. So let's go through the power rankings starting at 10. Let's go down to 10. The Portland Trail Blazers. They had a solid week. They got CJ McCollum back 2 weeks ago. They traded for Norman Powell, who was that was actually a funny moment, I thought. Norman Powell actually lined up on the wrong side of the court yesterday. They played the Toronto Tampa Bay Raptors, and he went into the wrong side, and I thought that was cool. He just got traded with them. He obviously had a championship run with them, and it's crazy to think that I don't know if they had enough with Trent Jr., kind of going about his own thing, and so they traded for Norman Powell. I think he's a scorer, that 3-point shooter that they needed, another scoring punch. Trent Jr. sometimes wasn't as effective as they wanted to on a nightly basis, so Norman Powell kind of brings that for them. They're a team that could get hot at any given moment. Dame time. No one wants to play them in the playoffs. Tough team always. I'm a big Dame fan, and I obviously don't think he gets the respect he deserves, but nobody wants to play them. That's a team that I'm definitely looking out for. So, yeah. The 9, we have the Dallas Mavericks, who just picked up J.J. Redick. Luka and Kristaps Porzingis have missed 2 of the 3 last games of 3-2 of the Mavs' last 10 games since the All-Star break. So they're another team that I look at, and like I talked about the Miami Heat, they almost have to play a kind of a perfect game. Defensively, they're terrible. They're 24th in the league. I think they've got to get better defensively. They're 23-21. They'll make the playoffs. Obviously, Luka Magic is special. They'll get JJ Redick. They got JJ Redick via trade. That'll help them out. Their 3-point shooting, because they're one of the worst 3-point shooting teams in the league. That'll help Luka kind of stretch the floor a little bit. I don't know how much he brings to them defensively. Like I said, they're 24th in the league defensively, so that JJ Redick will be a lift, though. It's kind of the modern NBA. Who we have is kind of going up. You got to score. You'd rather take scoring. They've got OKC this week, Boston, New York Knicks, and Washington. No cakewalk. Those will be some good games. And then we have coming in at 8, the Denver Nuggets, who have got better. They got a 25-year-old Aaron Gordon, who I think brings them Another scoring option. They gave away Gary Harris, who was a little banged up this year, who I really like, and kind of one of those glue guys. They traded him off to the Magic. Aaron Gordon, though, great young player. He could shoot now. He's been able to shoot 38% from three. Athletic, big, runs the floor. He had a quote this week that said that they've got every piece that they need to go to the championship or to win a championship. They're 20th in defense, off third in offensive rating. So obviously they've got to be better on defense to kind of make some stops. But yeah, Denver's another team like the Portland Trailblazers who no one really wants to play them. They're well coached, Coach Carl. So Karl Malone, is it Malone? Yeah. So yeah, the Lakers coming in at 7, still defensively first without Anthony Davis. No Anthony Davis for a majority of the year. No LeBron. Obviously they made the trade for Drummond. I said they've kind of have to just stay above water. They kind of just have to float. They can't sink. You don't want to get into those playing games. You don't want to, you don't really want to fall. That's the thing. You don't want to fall into that 6 seed and kind of play the playing game. They've got a tough week this week. They got the Milwaukee on Wednesday. They've got Sacramento. Or no, they have the Sacramento Kings, and they have the Clippers. So those are 2 tough games. Sacramento's playing good. They had a game winner the other night. So the Lakers, like I said, they've just got they're 30-17. They've kind of just got to stay above water, don't sink. And Andre Drummond will obviously come in and help. Not too crazy right now, but great pickup for them. The Phoenix Suns coming in at 6. They're slowly dropping a little bit. They were 4th last week. Defensively, they're 3rd in the league. Obviously, Devin Booker, Aiden, and Chris Paul lead the Suns. They got to get going, though. They do. The Suns are, again, do they have enough? I still think they might be like a piece away from making a lot of noise. We'll see if you're hearing, obviously you always hear stuff with the Knicks, with Devin Booker maybe wanting to go to the Knicks, play in New York. We'll see about that. So that's interesting to see. They play the Hawks, Chicago, and OKC this week. That's very favorable matchups this week. And then the Philadelphia 76ers, 2nd in defensive rating. It's kind of my thing. I want to talk about Doc Rivers. Coach Vogel doing a great job holding it down on defense. They've been holding down the fort, I must say, since Joel has been gone. And Tobias Harris, like I said, is playing well. Ben Simmons is playing well. Danny Green kind of killed the Lakers the other night. They got their rings, and he was on fire. I think he had 20-some-odd points. Dwight Howard has to he's got to stop getting thrown out of games, man. He's one of my favorite guys to watch, but he played with so much intensity. He shouldn't have got thrown out in that Laker game, but he got thrown out, and that was a tough one to see Dwight go on that one. Officiating. You guys know how much I love the officials. The Milwaukee Bucks coming in at 4. Giannis Antetokounmpo obviously leading the charge. They're 7th defensively and 5th. I said 7th defensively and 5th offensively. They had PJ Tucker, obviously, who I think it's crazy. He's only taken 4 shots in 44 minutes with the Bucks, and they're going to be all right. They're just a team, I don't know how much. I liked PJ Tucker a lot. And obviously they got him for the postseason to guard the boys in Brooklyn. One of the boys in Brooklyn, Drew Holiday, another great player that I love. So Milwaukee coming in at 4. They've got the Clippers, Lakers, Portland, and Sacramento this week. At 3, we've got the Clippers. Big jump for them. They were 7th for me in my power rankings last week. 13 defensively and defensive rating, and 2nd offensively. They get they've had Luke Kennard has kind of come around for them. He's playing a lot better. He's I think he might probably finally is playing into his role, kind of fit into his role. Patrick Beverley's still hurt. Serge Ibaka's still out. They're a team that we obviously all are scared of. They're a good basketball team, well coached. Kawhi, is he going to be a free agent this summer? That's going to be fun. We're going to have to follow that news here Or is he going to resign with the Clippers? The Clippers are obviously a scary team to watch. Hell of a basketball team. They got Milwaukee, Orlando, Denver, and the Lakers. Look out for the Clippers. They're playing really good basketball. They're kind of finally coming into their own, kind of doing what we all thought they were going to do last year. And this year they're kind of flying under the radar, and you'd love to see that if you're a Clipper fan. The Brooklyn Nets coming in at 2. Defensively, 26. I tell you guys, that's what always scares me, but offensively, number 1. They gave up 113 points a game. They average 117, so they almost have to play perfect on offense, it seems like, and they're going to probably play perfect on offense with all the pieces they have. So they'll get LaMarcus this week, and Blake Griffin has found a fountain of youth out there in Brooklyn. I don't know what they have in the water. They say the water's different in New York with the pizza, so they might be able to have a little more bounce out there for Blake Griffin. He's been dunking all over the place. So they're obviously a team to watch. What do I want to say? Kyrie had a hell of a night tonight. He had a good night. So who else do they have this week? Minnesota, Houston, Charlotte, and Chicago. Very favorable this week. They should go perfect. They should beat Minnesota. They should beat Houston. They should beat Charlotte, and they should beat Chicago. Then coming in at number 1, the Utah Jazz. So, offensively 4th, defensively 5th. That's a really well-balanced team. They almost blew a 21-point lead against the Grizzlies on Friday. That was a scary one. Ja Morant, I want to talk about him a little bit later in the show. I'll actually talk about him here coming up. He's one of my favorite players. But Utah, no superstar, kind of doing it with a bunch of high-level, mid-tier guys, I want to say. I don't want to, Donovan Mitchell, I've said on the show before, he's got to make the players around him better. He's got to find that second dimension to make him, that all-around complete player that I've talked about. He's a hell of a basketball player, though. Jordan Clarkson having a career year for them off the bench. Joe Ingles, they're a well-balanced team. And like I said, Mike Conley, I was going to say the best player not making an All-Star game, but he made the All-Star game this year. You can't say that anymore. Rudy Gobert obviously playing at all defensive level this year, but the Jazz coming in at 1. So Jazz, Nets, Clippers, Bucks, 76ers, Suns, Lakers, Denver, Dallas, Portland. How many teams are from the Western Conference? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 teams from the Western Conference, 3 from the East. I mean, no surprise there. The Grizzlies looking at from the outside in at 11, San Antonio 12, and then the New York Knickerbockers coming in at 13. So I want to talk about the Memphis Grizzlies a little bit because they're an interesting team. I really like them. Ja Morant, obviously, they might be like a player away from that, from kind of, making some noise, but Memphis is an interesting team to me. They used to be known for the grindhouse. They used to have Zach Randolph. They used to Tony Allen. They used to lock you down defensively, and they've always been like one of those teams that's tough, and hard nosed, kind of goes about their way. But I want to talk about Ja Morant. He is probably who is Ja Morant? He's a young superstar, and I kind of feel for Ja because I don't know when he'll be an all-star. The West is so loaded with guards. Think about it. Just off the top of my head, I'm going to go over it top of my head. You have Chris Paul. Crazy to say that, right? Chris Paul. Devin Booker. Who else we got? Donovan Mitchell. Every given night, you've got one of the best guards coming at you. Steph. You've got who else we got? You got Dennis Schroeder, obviously, who's not an all-star, but obviously a great guard. You've got who else we got in the West? Come on, Eddie. He's not thinking. Like I said, who else we got? We got a lot of good guards. We got Dame, McCollum. I'm obviously just going off the top of my head here. De'Aaron Fox, also a young superstar. Luka Doncic. Lonzo. I mean, think about it. That's deep. Jamal Murray. So, yeah, I mean, it's deep. The West is deep with guards. And But Joe, man, he made these. He had this play the other night where he just keeps going up. He just keeps going up. He's a highlight reel ready to happen every game. He's a winner. He kind of goes about his business the right way. I love the way he plays. He plays hard every night. I want the Grizzlies to do well. I like I said, I'm a big Grizzlies fan. I like Dylan Brooks, Oregon Duck. So I don't know, John Moran. I hope they make some noise, But like I said, it's tough. It's tough in the Western Conference. They'll probably end up making the playoffs, maybe playing the play-in. But yeah, I want to talk about some notable comebacks, some notable games today. Steph, obviously coming off that tough tailbone injury. That's an injury no one wants to talk about. That one hurts. 32 points on 11 of 24 from the field, 6 3-pointers, 5 rebounds, 6 assists. Have a night. And then Russell Westbrook had a night. He had an absolute night, ladies and gentlemen. We all know Russell Westbrook, walking triple-double, Los Angeles, California. Just sometimes, he has a tough time coming around with guys. But he had an amazing game today. He had one of those games, 35, 14, and 21. Think about that. First to log 30, 10, and 20 triple-double since Magic Johnson. Wow. That's nuts. And he's still doing it, still flying around. Obviously, the Wizards are having kind of a up and down season. Bradley Beal said he does not want to leave. Good for him. Kind of wants to build around there. But yeah, he had a hell of a night. It's always good to see Steph back too. Steph, who's obviously had a tough. It's been tough for the Warriors, I tell you. Obviously, not much help down there with Dre. He hit one from half court tonight, but. Yeah, we've still got a lot to come up on the show. We've got some more March Madness to talk about, what to look forward to. My picks for the games: USC, the Pac-12. Can they stay hot? The NBA. We've got a hell of a slate coming this week. I want to talk a little bit about that. The MVP race. James Harden's finally getting some love. He's coming in at 2. I want to talk about that here a little bit later. We've got so much more on the show tonight. So stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
Welcome back to the show, ladies and gentlemen, where we talk all the greatest basketball. I talked a little bit about my power rankings a little bit earlier. I talked a little March Madness. I want to get back into that call from last night with the Uconn women's basketball team. Obviously, that had some controversy. I'll talk about that in a later segment. But first, I want to talk about super teams. There's been a lot of discussion lately about super teams. What's a super team? Are the Brooklyn Nets a super team? Are the Lakers a super team? What's going on with this? So I wanted to dive a little bit deeper and talk about super teams. So the definition of a super team is in the NBA is a franchise whose roster typically has 3 or more Hall of Fame caliber players that are in the prime of their career. So, I went and took I went back in time to see what are these NBA super teams that we're talking about, right? So, everybody, I was watching, I listen to sports talk every day. I listen to sports radio every day. And I hear, this is all LeBron's fault. LeBron's fault, LeBron's fault, LeBron's fault. So, LeBron joining the Heat in 2010, 2011 was the start of super teams. So then I went and did my homework. I was like, all right, let's see what this let's see what this is about. So then I go back in time, and then I see it's funny to me because, first of all, are we forgetting about Jordan's teams? Obviously they drafted Scottie, but did Dennis Rodman come out of? Am I Tony Courage? Am I Ron Harper? Steve Kerr? Are these super teams, or am I just being a little bit crazy? In 85 and 86, the Boston Celtics had Larry Bird, Kevin McHale, and Robert Parrish. Somebody called them the greatest front court of all time. But LeBron started it, going to the Heat. Huh? And their sixth man that year was Bill Walton. How crazy is that? So we're going back, and like I always talk about, I don't like to go back, and I don't really like to go back on my something that I didn't see, So let's not go too far. Let's go to the big three. Everybody always talks about LeBron. What about the Boston Celtics? Do we not remember that team they tried to assemble? That they did assemble, Danny Ainge? We're not going to talk about that? Or Kobe failing to get a super team? Karl Malone, Gary Payton, obviously they're at the back end of their careers. But the Boston Celtics, we just going to not talk about that? You guys don't remember that? Let me refresh your memories, ladies and gentlemen. The Boston Celtics had Ray Allen, Kevin Garnett, and then Paul Pierce. We're not going to talk about that? And this is just before I get into all the the craziness. The 2007 Celtics had Rajon Rondo, Ray Allen, new addition, Paul Pierce, who was on the team, Kevin Garnett, new addition, and then I don't want to say the last one, Kendrick Perkins. I don't give him that much credit. Big Perk. He's a funny guy now on TV. He has some bold takes. Sometimes they hit, sometimes they don't. But I can't believe people are saying LeBron was the first guy. Are you serious? Wilt Chamberlain, Jerry West, Elgin Baylor, just going back in history. Kareem and Oscar Robinson, 4 seasons, 1 ring. Wilt Frazier, Earl Monroe, Willis Reed, Jerry Lucas, Billy Bradley, 3 seasons, 1 ring. Come on. We're going to blame LeBron? We're really going to do this? And then it's funny because Charles Barkley said, "Oh, I'll never be part of a super team. I would rather not win a ring." Obviously, you could say that now. I would rather not win a ring than join a super team. But let me tell come on, big fella. You had Clyde Drexel. You had Charles, of course, and then Scottie Pippen and Hakeem Olajuwon. Obviously, they struggled with injuries and they lost in the first round. But that one that cracks me up is Paul Pierce, Kevin Garnett, and Ray Allen. Was that not the first domino to fall? And obviously, 5 seasons, 1 ring. That's tough too. That team always, I think that team is the most, what's the nicest way of saying this without being mean? They were even to this day, they are the most how do I say this? They are the most delicate team, I think, when it comes to saying certain things. Like, you can't talk about that team. If you talk about that team, it seems like they won 8 championships. It does. They won 1 ring. They won once. And you like, yeah, they should have. They should have. And that's where I think, to me, in my lifetime, I was born in 93. That's where I think, the Lakers try to do it with, like I said, with Shaq. What about Shaq and Kobe? Can we talk about that for a second? Shaq and Kobe, are you kidding me? Like, literally the most dominant player of all time. Literally the most dominant player of all time. 99 to 02. The Lakers signed Shaquille O'Neal and traded him. And traded for Kobe Bryant. Arguably the best 1-2 punch ever. I mean, come on. And then obviously there was failures that I'll talk about here a little bit later. Those are always fun. I'll talk about that here a little bit. But I want to talk about the successes. The success. Shaq and Kobe. Back then you might have only needed 2 superstars, and obviously they had some great role players. Derek Fisher, Robert Horry, Big Shot Bob, Rick Fox, Horace Grant. I mean, this goes on. Lakers were a hell of a ball club. Phil Jackson. I keep going. But nobody wants to talk about that. Everyone wants to blame LeBron. Everybody wants to blame LeBron. Come on. Lakers, Showtime Lakers? Probably the best dynasty in all of sports ever? Come on. Come on. And then how about the Lakers getting Pau Gasol? We're not going to talk about that one? Shaquille wanted out, so he leaves. So that's another week. It's obviously not a super team, but he joined Miami Heat. Dwayne Wade. You only needed 2 guys back in the day. You only needed 2 guys. He won a championship there, Shaquille. And then the Lakers get Pau Gasol, Fisher, Lamar Odom, Andrew Bynum. Come on. Obviously, they're not like the big name super teams. They were obviously constructed, a little more humbly. But then you only really needed 2 guys, really. Lamar Odom was an all-star. Bynum was a stud. I mean, if his knees were better, you would have felt a lot better for that. But, guys, come on. Everyone's bashing LeBron 2013. Obviously, he had... So the thing about the thing that I want to argue, or I don't want to defend. So LeBron was doing all this crazy stuff for the Cavaliers, right? And if you're anybody in any corporation, in any business, and you're putting your heart and soul out, and you see that your manager or boss or owner isn't doing anything to help you, what are you going to do? You're just going to stick around and keep doing that? And LeBron said, enough with that. This is malarkey. I'm going to go do my own thing. I'm going to go and make my own team. Hey, Dwayne Wade, do you mind if I come out to South Beach? Let me call Kevin Love real quick. Or I'm sorry, Chris Bosh real quick. Right? Do we, think about it. You're at a job. You're busting your butt to do all this for a company. And you're putting up, say you're in sales, right? You're putting up all the numbers. You're bringing all the money into the firm or to the your business, and you're not being recognized. They're not asking you for help. They're not, they just kind of leave you out there. You take mediocre teams to be the best sales team in whatever city you're at, and all of a sudden, they don't even want to help you. They don't want to give you resources to be better. So LeBron said, forget that. I'm going to go somewhere where I'm appreciated. Right? And that's what he did. He went to the Heat. Got Chris Bosh. Then made a call to Ray Allen. Ray Allen obviously came over to help. But come on, guys. Call it a super team. Obviously, 3 guys in their prime. Won 2 championships. Should have won 3, but LeBron kind of choked. I'll be the first to tell you. But everybody wants to knock him. Like, everybody wants to knock that. Why? And then we saw a little bit about that. The Lakers, they try to add Steve Nash kind of in the tail end of his career. He was kind of plagued with injury. And then they added Dwight Howard. That obviously didn't end up working for the Lakers. That was pretty bad. That and the Karl Malone and those are obviously the failed ones. And I want to talk. I want to talk a little bit about the failed ones because those are always funny to me. But then the super team that I call the biggest super team ever, literally ever, the Golden State Warriors. They were literally coming off the best record. They were up 3-1 against the Cavs. And then they lost. Obviously some controversial stuff, whatever. Then Draymond gets in his car and calls KD. Like, yo, KD, come to the Warriors. You're 70, you've won. You literally broke the record for wins. You go to the finals. And obviously LeBron is doing crazy things, Hall of Fame stuff. But then you add Kevin Durant. That's when you're just like, oh, okay. Yeah. That was, come on. Just to beat LeBron. That's a super team. That's a super team of the ages. Klay Thompson, arguably the greatest shooter of all time. Steph Curry, arguably the best shooter of all time. And then you add, to me, one of the best players of all time. Not just shooter, players. Kevin Durant, the ultimate cheat code, and I've told you guys how I felt about that. Then you add guys like Andre Iguodala. You just add pieces at that point. And then you have Draymond. Like, that's the definition of a super team. So when people are telling me about, like, the Brooklyn Nets and stuff like that, I go, maybe 5 years ago. Basically, anybody could have had LaMarcus Aldridge. Basically, anybody could have had Blake Griffin. They both ate a ton of money. I don't like to count people's lettuce, but they're both kind of paying for a championship if they do get that far. And let's not get ahead of ourselves. Kevin Durant's not healthy. We don't know what Kyrie's going to do. He had a great game last night, but Kyrie's, on any given night, you don't know what you're getting from him. I've talked about that on the show. James Harden is obviously the MVP. I agree with that. But this is not the Nets are the team now. I think, like I said, on paper, it sounds amazing. Then the Lakers had Andre Drummond, and everyone wants to talk about that. They're healthy. They got to get healthy. Both their top guys are out. The West is good. The East is good. This is not going to be a cakewalk. Super teams, though. Like, come on. Let's not blame LeBron for this. And let's be real. Players got smarter. If a GM could do it, why not? Why can't we do it? Right? That's their thought process. Like, if a GM could go out and do this, why can't a player dictate where he wants to go? Why not? Right? I think it makes sense. I think players are finding out their power now. They're not even their, if they could be kind of shipped off anywhere they want, like, why does that not give them the right to kind of form the teams they want? Too much power? Well, I hate to break it to you. Sometimes some of these players are bigger than actual franchises, to be honest with you. Like, let's be real. Kevin Durant might be bigger than the Brooklyn Nets. I mean, think about it. Like, he probably is. And now I want to talk about I want to talk about super teams that didn't work, and I think these are always funny. Because you have You think you're going to do it? I got my guys. Oh. That didn't work out. And it's funny because obviously a lot of these guys try to, the one that always comes to mind to me is Carmelo Anthony, Russell Westbrook, and Paul George. Like, Carmelo Anthony, first of all, he was a superstar at that point, but a declining superstar at that, and he wasn't ready to accept that third role. He thought he was still the best player on that team. And then Paul George, Pandemic P, doesn't show up in the playoffs. So that was a bad one. That one didn't end up working out. And then we had Lob City, DeAndre Jordan, Chris Paul, Blake Griffin. They obviously drafted two of those guys, and then Chris Paul came over via trade. I thought that was a team that was a tough one for the Clippers. That's where I thought they were really going to get over the edge. They had some good pieces. They had JJ Redick on that team as well. Very good basketball team. Jamal Crawford. That was a team that, to me, came up short. They should have had a championship. But for whatever reason, they just couldn't get along. And that was kind of on them. Then we have the Lakers, like I said earlier. Metta World Peace, Kobe, Dwight, Powell, Steve Nash. Like, that was a tough one as a Laker fan. I thought we were going to make a run deep in the playoffs. Another Laker one that didn't work out. Shaq, Kobe, Karl Malone, and Gary Payton. Both guys, Karl and the Glove, kind of at the end of their careers. Though my favorite one, though. This is my favorite one, though. Favorite one of all time. This one takes all the marble. This one, to me, you guys know which one it is. Obviously, in my lifetime. This is the greatest one. The big ticket in Brooklyn. Joe Johnson, Darren Williams, Paul Pierce, and Brook Lopez. that one was funny. It was one of those lineups that you see on paper, like, what year is it? If you're talking like early 2000s, oh man, that's scary. That's scary, that team. But when you put that team together later in their back end of their careers, it's like, oh, wow. Yeah, no, that's not going to work out. And I remember Paul Pierce being... I give Paul Pierce a hard time, but Paul Pierce is a funny... If you listen to him talk, just listen to him talk, and you just be like, okay, I see why you laugh, Eddie. Like, some of the things... He's got better, though. He's got a lot better, because when he first got it on TV and on... Oh, my goodness. But that one was funny. On paper, past their primes, I mean, that was... They ended up winning 44 games... And got beat by the Heat in 5 games in the playoffs. They tried to call that a super team, though. That was funny. I remember the big ticket. KG, obviously one of the best competitors of all time. Darren Williams was past his prime. And then LeBron tried to do that, too, in when he went back to Cleveland. I don't know if you guys remember that. That's a failed one, too. He got Dwayne Wade. He got Darren Williams. He had Isaiah Thomas, I think. That ended up not working out either. You really got to be, and the super team that obviously wasn't a super team, but like was a really good team, and they were just a little bit young, obviously, was the Thunder. Kevin Durant, James Harden, Russell Westbrook, Serge Ibaka. Like, that's a ball. That's a team. Obviously, they were a little young, couldn't really figure it out, but, I'm hearing a lot of speculation, maybe Steph Curry to the Lakers. Is LeBron recruiting him? That'd be fun. Think about that. I don't know if he's, like I said, I don't like counting people's lettuce, but he'd be giving up, Lakers, Warriors could offer him $200 million in super max. I'm not sure the Lakers can. But that'd be fun. But super teams, man, it's funny to talk about super teams, and obviously when they leave, the Thunder, Russell Westbrook was a good guy in Oklahoma City, and KD was a bad guy for leaving, but he wanted to win. It all ends up being wanting to win. That's what it all comes down to. And obviously, sometimes you got to do what's best for you. And sometimes people won't like it. But, hey, it is what it is, right? Super teams. It's a funny world we live in now, and you got to have a super team now to win it all. But stick around, ladies and gentlemen. We'll be talking. I want to dive a little bit more into that Baylor Uconn final call. I'm going to give you my predictions for the game tonight, and I'll be right back with more news.
This is your ultimate stop for everything sports. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Should I say more? From the NFL, MLB, the NBA to MMA, it's all in here. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Listen now.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, of the show, where we talk all the greatest basketball. You guys know the deal. We just talked about super teams. I want to go over. I'm currently watching the Gonzaga USC ball game. Gonzaga's up 41-26 on my USC Trojans. I thought Gonzaga was the best team coming into the tournament. I still think they are, and I'll talk about that here a little bit later. But I want to first talk about this Uconn Baylor women's basketball game last night. I touched a little bit about it earlier. And some people thought it was a foul. LeBron ended up tweeting out, where was the call? But to be honest with you, my assessment on that final shot was a little bit of a bailout. She was, so if you watch my show, you listen to my show, you always hear me complain about refs. And I don't mean to bash refs. I really don't. But I think in college basketball sometimes, I think they try to make their point felt. They want to be too big of a part of the game, to me personally, first of all. And then second off, I think they've got to bite their whistle a little bit more. And just because you got to kind of have to let the game play out. I'm a fair believer in letting games play out, kind of let them go as, kind of let it go. And last night, we kind of got that a little bit with the Baylor and Uconn game. You never want, as an official, you never want to call a game. You never want to, you almost want to bite you almost want to bite your whistle at the end of games. I just kind of the rule of thumb, I think, with officiating. And the girl from Baylor drove down the court, and she got to the corner, and she was kind of in no man's land, I kind of want to say. And it almost looked like she looked. And the two girls, I'm looking at the photos right now. One of them is vertical. The other one is kind of, kind of has her hands down. But I agree with the refs on this one because that would have almost been a bailout call in a sense. Because she had nowhere to go. The shot wasn't close, obviously. You could say she got hit on the hand. She got hit on the arm. But it was almost like I said, it was very much a bailout. It was a bailout. I don't think it was a foul. Like I said, refs don't want to call that foul there. I thought it was a right call, to be honest with you. I don't think you make that call there. And the women's basketball, and a lot of people we're going crazy on Twitter about it. And then Gino said, I don't think he had a response to LeBron. He said, I don't think LeBron's ever worried about a ref changing the call after the ref blew their whistle. You're not going to say, oh yeah, no, it was a foul or whatnot. And the coach kind of went out on a limb and said, yeah, it was a foul, whatnot. I have different views that it was a foul. I just don't think, like I said, I'm going to go back on it and say I didn't see the foul. I did see the foul, but I don't think you call it there, and it would have been a bailout call, I personally think. And bailout calls don't sit well. And it was funny because they asked Coach Mulkey about it, and she says, "Did you see it? What did you see?" And the reporter said, "Well, I saw a foul." Then she was like, "You don't need to quote me." And then I want to talk about a little bit of what she said. She went on and said, I don't think the player should be tested for the Final Four because it would be a tough time if to stay away from testing for the Final Four. No COVID testing. So I want to talk about this a little bit, and I don't want to get... We're in a weird time right now with COVID-19, and it's almost... Obviously, cases are going down in certain places. The vaccine's getting rolled out. But sports is a privilege to be playing right now. It's a tough time for a lot of people. We've lost a lot of people. And for her to say that, it's a little selfish to me a little bit. Obviously, you don't want to see anybody miss a game because of COVID. I get that. But it's part of the season this year. It's kind of what the MO is this year. It's kind of another thing you've got to, as a coach, you've got to tell your guys, to be as safe as possible. Don't put yourself in positions that you don't want to be in. Off the court, off the court, obviously on the court you don't either, but on the court, or off the court, I'm sorry, you've got to be smart of what you do. Do you want to play basketball? If you want to play basketball, you're not going to be dumb or stupid off the court. It'll affect your team. It'll affect you. It'll affect the university. It'll affect everything. And that kind of goes with everything right now. And for her to say that, we need to dump testing. Like, are you serious? First of all, you lost. And second off, like, this is COVID. So, I don't know. I didn't really like those comments of her, and I think, and I know she's mad she lost, but you've just got to be better. Didn't like that, to be honest with you. And that wasn't the best look for her, but, so be it. Her team lost. She's probably upset, and I get that. But, hey, to each their own, right? I want to talk a little bit about Evan Fournier, the latest pickup for the Boston Celtics. He had a tough night last night, guys. He went through it. It's his first night as a Celtic, and whenever you get somewhere and you're playing a game for the first time in front of new people, you meet somebody new, you're around anybody, right? For anybody for that matter, you're nervous, right? And sometimes that affects how you act. Sometimes that affects in this instance, it affects how he plays. So he had a tough night, and that's okay. It really is. He went 0 for 10 in 33 minutes, 0 for 5 from 3, 0 points, -12. So for all the Celtics fans that are listening, he's not going to be this bad. He's not. He's not going to be this bad. I think he's a great addition to the team. I think in the long run, it's going to end up helping them. He just had a tough night. You guys know, whenever you're in a new position, anytime you're into something, you try to press a little bit. You try to be a little bit better. You try to be, what else? You try to do a little bit more. You try to press a little bit. And it's tough. It is. Like I said, he's not going to have another night like that. I also want to talk about Russell Westbrook. He had an amazing night. He had 21 assists, 35 points. He had triple-double. But 21 assists. I want to talk about assists. Because assists assists are so tough to come by. Because you got to rely. It's not really just you. You got to put your players in good positions to succeed. But you also have to, the guys have to make their shots. Right? And that's, I think, is a huge. He already has 8 assists tonight at halftime. He has 11 points, 8 assists. And he's having a night, 5 rebounds. But the 21 assists always catches my eyes because it's not just a you assist. You got to rely on that other person to make a shot to come through for you, and they did that. The Washington without Bradley Beal is a game that Washington has to kind of win now. Hachimura's kind of coming along. He's stringing along some great games, and I thought he's another Gonzaga guy that Gonzaga guys usually are great players, and they're in the play-in. They could be in the play-in. It'll be interesting to see. When you have a guy like Bradley Beal and Westbrook, no one wants to play these guys in certain series just because they're such good basketball players and they could go off on any given night, and you just don't know, right? So you'd rather just like get them out. But yeah, they're a good basketball team. And then we have the Clippers. Won 6 straight games. They're finally kind of coming to their own. Luke Kennard stepped up last night. No Paul George. They play the Orlando Magic tonight. That should be 7 straight wins for them. Guys, they're playing good basketball. Have they kind of hit their stride? Have they kind of been going now? You know, last year, they were flying under the radar. No one really talked about them. This year, or last year, everyone was talking about them. This year, no one's really talking about the Clippers. But they're like kind of on a revenge tour. They weren't happy for what happened last year. Obviously, they got embarrassed. They blew a 3-1 lead. Pandemic P, as I like to call him on my show. He struggled. No hand for butts. He struggled. But this year, I think they're Luke Kennard. Everyone kind of scratched their head at that deal. Was it a lot? And it kind of was, I thought, personally. But he's playing the contract. Good for him. You always like guys that, sometimes it takes guys a little bit of time to get kind of used to the situation, kind of get used to the style of play. You guys got to think about it. This year is a weird year of playing basketball. You don't really know. You don't know on any given night how it's going to go. More power to them. I think they're doing. The Clippers are doing well. Team to look out for. They're tough, gritty, just a good basketball team. We've got some good slated games tonight. Like I said, I'm watching the Gonzaga game, and Suggs, I'm watching the game as I record, and Suggs, guys, he kind of just, if you look at all of his assists, guys are wide open. And I don't know if it's him getting guys open and kind of drawing a double team. Obviously, Gonzaga is one of the best teams in the country, if not the best team in the country. But guys are just always like, I don't know if he makes guys open, like what it is, but I see a lot of Chris Paul in him early on in his career. And obviously that's a huge name to live up to because Chris Paul is arguably one of the greatest point guards of all time. I don't want to put that on an 18-year-old kid, but kid is good. He's not huge. He's not fat. I mean, he's not the fastest guy, not the biggest guy, but man, that's a good game. Then we got Michigan, UCLA that I'll talk about here in a second. But tonight's game, Charlotte's up on the Washington Wizards 64-56. Like I said, Russell Westbrook is already having a night. He is already going off. And I don't know if you guys saw the other day, there was a video of LaMelo Ball sitting on the sideline, kind of like his feet were jumping. He was like really antsy to get in games. And it's got to be tough for a kid like that who's going through a big injury like that to not kind of be around his team. Obviously, it's probably the first injury in his entire life. That he's kind of had to sit out. They almost said that he might not even play the rest of the year. It's looking like he may come back. But he was so antsy to get in. He's probably so tough for a kid, It's like a kid. You just want to go play. They're holding it down. Gordon Hayward, 18 points tonight. Graham, 11. Cody Zeller off the bench, 11 points. Have a night. They obviously miss him, but they'll be okay. And Hachimura, though, 16 points. Look out, Russell Westbrook. No Bradley Beal again tonight. He'll be back soon. And they're a good team. Another game tonight to look out for is Denver Nuggets against the Philadelphia 76ers. That's going to be a good game to watch, I think. The 76ers obviously no Joel. The Nuggets have newly acquired Aaron Gordon. Tobias Harris is playing well. The Joker, those are going to be the two the headed monsters. And then, you have Ben Simmons, who I think is great, who, I talked about earlier, should be on the Rockets, but the Joker. It's funny, I look at the points, rebounds, and assists. You would think Jamal would lead the Nuggets in points, but no, it's Jokic. He leads the teams in rebounds, assists, and points. Guy is special. Just a good player. George Hill is not going to play for the 76ers yet. He'll be back pretty soon. I'm going to go with the 76ers in this game. I like the 76ers. The Nuggets team are just so... They're just so... You don't know where you're getting from them every night, They're Then you got the Clippers against the Orlando Magic. That should be, like I said, 7 straight for the Clippers. I'm not sure if Paul George is going to play. Let me look at the injury report. Paul George is day-to-day, so looks like he might play. Patrick Beverly's out, Serge Ibaka, and no Rajon Rondo. So no Terrence Ross either for the Magic. The Magic played tough the other night against the Clippers, or against the Lakers, I'm sorry, but they had a lead. That Bacon kid is a good basketball player. Look out for him. But that should be a ball game. That shouldn't be a ball game. I'm sorry. Then we got the Phoenix Suns and the Atlanta Hawks in the nightcap. Atlanta fighting for that spot. They've got a lot better. Collins and Trae Young kind of working together a little bit more. They have no Lou Will. They don't know is going to be out. No Chris Dunn, obviously, and no De'Aaron Hunter. They've missed some. No Nader and no Kaminsky for the Suns. I'm going to go with, obviously, the Suns. Devin Booker, Aiden, Bridges, Paul. Just too good of a team. Trae Young is still, I don't know. He still doesn't do it for me yet. But, he's a good basketball player. They're a couple pieces away. And the game that I'm watching now is the Gonzaga Bulldogs up 49-30 on the USC Trojans. USC almost down by 20 points. If they're going to need a nice comeback, the Gonzaga is the best basketball team, I think, in the country right now. Haven't skipped a beat. The Mobley brothers, 11-8. They got to be better than that for USC to win. USC has no bench points. You're not going to win a game, I hate to break it to you, with no bench points. So you just have to, your bench has to show up at some point. Timey has 15, Suggs has 13. How about that? Yeah, they're a good basketball team. I've said it. I've said it all along. Baylor looked good last night. I don't see anybody. But the thing about Houston, Houston Baylor, that's a tough basketball team. I don't see anybody though. I think Baylor would give Gonzaga the hardest time, but even then, I think Gonzaga's on a mission this year, and they're going to be tough to beat. And that's who I have kind of going all the way. You guys know that. We got some other good games coming up tomorrow. What do we have? We have UCLA Michigan too. UCLA Michigan could be a fun one. I think the most vulnerable team, number 1 seed, is Michigan. If anybody could slip, I think it would be them. But even then, I think UCLA, the Pac-12 can't go blank, right? They need to get going. Wednesday is a fun slate of basketball games, a full slate of basketball games. Portland against Detroit. I like Portland. Portland's just, I think, a better team than Detroit. Miami needs to get going against Indiana. Indiana's a really good basketball team. They've got to get going fast. This is a game that you've got to look out for if you're Miami. It's a trap game. Indiana's playing well again. Karis LeVert is a baller. I've said that. They should have never traded him. Malcolm Brogdon's playing well. It's going to be a good game. Miami's got to be careful. Like I said, they're not sneaking up on anybody here. Bam Adebayo, I'll see if they looks like Victor Oladipo and Kendrick Nunn are day-to-day. But they've got to get going. They're 23-24. They're under 500. Pacers are a good basketball team, too. They're not no walk in the park, I tell you. They play hard. Boston against the Dallas Mavericks. Evan Fournier, I expect a comeback game for him. I think he'll have a better game. I think he'll score more than no points. Brooklyn Nets against the Houston Rockets. What is that? That's a rival. That'll be an interesting, fun game for James Harden. Let's see if he posts up a huge stat line. Utah against Memphis. I feel like they played a lot in last week. Memphis, John Morant, another spectacular game I expect from him. He's something, guys. He's probably the most athletic. He's one of the most athletic players in the NBA right now. It's crazy. Minnesota, New York should be a good one. Minnesota, Anthony Edwards. Come on, man. Give me a case to. Let me keep talking about you in that Rookie of the Year. Oklahoma City Thunder and then the Toronto Raptors. That should be just be a game, I think. Yeah, not much to watch there. Sacramento against San Antonio Spurs. Lowest ticket price is $6. So if you're in San Antonio, go check that out. Phoenix against the Chicago Bulls. And then the nightcap, we have the Los Angeles Lakers and the Andre Drummond first game with the Los Angeles Lakers against the Milwaukee Bucks, which is no easy task. We got Drew Holiday, PJ Tucker, Giannis, DiVincenzo, Lopez. That's a good basketball team. They're making a lot of noise this year. They're kind of flying out. They remind me a lot of the Clippers in the West. No one's really talking about them, but they're just playing good basketball. And this is kind of maybe what they needed, is no one to really talk about them and kind of let them do their own thing. Andre Drummond, though, is going to play for the Lakers. He said he's in the best shape. He kind of took this time off, kind of get himself in shape, kind of get himself going. And he's excited. He seems really excited to play for the Lakers, and I think he's going to bring a lot to the table. Look out for it. I don't think, like I said, his impact won't be as big as when LeBron and Anthony Davis are back, but we'll see. We'll see some pieces of him, and it's exciting time in the NBA and March Madness, guys. I'll be back later this week for another show. Thank you for joining me today. It was a hell of a ride, guys. Like I said, I'll be back later in the week. I hope you guys have a great rest of your week. Have a great day, and enjoy it. Have a good one.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Basketball Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. From movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.